to my reading and my writing pals. I am a book hoarder. I think like many people on the internet, on the bookish side of things, I own a lot of books. I have collected and hoarded a lot of books with the intention of reading every single one that I have ever purchased, be it full price at a bookstore or from thrift books or a thrift store in town or when I'm away from town, because it's always fun to visit a thrift store when you're away from town. Last year I did a yard sale with a friend and I destashed my bookshelves by quite a bit. I think I got rid of 40 books. I just have too many books and I never know what I want to read next. That is where this jar is going to be coming into play. In this jar, I have all of my physical TBR books, as well as some of the books I have in jail on my Kindle, because I took my Kindle off of internet and put it in airplane mode to hold some Libby books in jail on this thing, because I wanted to read them, but I did not have the time when I got the hold, so I've kind of just kept them in purgatory over here on my old brick of a Kindle. We can talk about Amazon actually bricking Kindles in another video, so I need to probably read those books pretty soon so I can jailbreak my Kindle. But that is not the point of this video. The point of this video is that I need to read more books. And my plan for doing this, because I'm always daunted by sitting down and reading a whole book, I am going to pull out 3 slips of paper from this jar, and I am going to read at least the first chapter of all 3 books that I pull from this jar. And from that first chapter, I need to decide whether I am going to keep reading the book or whether I am going to donate the book right away. Either putting it in the little free library across the street from my house, donating it to a friend, or selling it on Pango. I think I've said everything that I need to. So without further ado, let's get picking. Another little toss up. Should I pick all 3? I have 2 in my hands, so let's just go digging for another. Let's go into the bottom of the dish. I want you. I want you. You are several slips. Ever the Brave. A Flicker in the Dark. And finally, Winter Song. All 3 of these books are ones that I have wanted to get to. They are books that I intentionally wanted, so I'm excited to read them. It looks like 2 of these are fantasy. A Flicker in the Dark, I don't remember if this is a full-on fantasy thriller or if this is just kind of mysterious thriller. If the cover is what I'm thinking in my head. I think I got this from I think my sister's read this. My older sister has read this. Bless you. I'm gonna have to figure out which one to start with. Which one should I start with, baby? This one? Ever the Brave? We're gonna start with that one. Do you think I'm gonna like it? I did it. I read the prologue and first chapters for all 3 of those books, and I have thoughts. The first book I picked up and read was Ever the Hunted. I don't know if I mentioned it or not. I was under the assumption that Ever the Brave was the first book in that series and started reading that one, was very confused, and quickly went to Goodreads and found out that that was the second book. So I quickly shut that book, grabbed the first book, and I am not impressed. Little information about it. Again, the title is Ever the Hunted by Erin Summerall. It was published by Houghton Mifflin Harcourt Publishing Company in 2017. It is categorized as YA. It has a 3.55 star rating on Goodreads. It seems to mainly be following, what's her name, Britta? The filter, not spelled the same way, but like the filter, I assume. Britta Flannery. This is not going off to a good start. Flannery. And Cohen. The book very much just tells you things outright, kind of over and over again. It's repeating things, it's driving them in. It is not necessarily a bad thing. That is typically, in my opinion, it ends up being a product of a YA book designed, I feel, for lower YA readers who are getting used to reading longer books, who maybe aren't going to be able to subtly pick up on things quite as easily. Oh, that give me a headache. And so for teens who are getting used to reading longer books for the first time, you kind of have to tell them things, you know, a couple times over. Typically the recommended advice definitely was in 2017 that I wasn't really sure about the voice, and it was not for me. I found myself getting annoyed quite quickly. And again, it's not necessarily the fault of the book. The book was written for someone who needs to be told things expositorily over and over again. I wrote down the quote, "It takes 2 inhales and exhales to ground myself, to calm my pulse," as an example of like the prose I wasn't liking. That's not like the worst sentence I've ever, or 2 sentences I've ever read in a book, but I think it just bothered me that it was like, it takes 2 inhales and exhales. Like that just felt like a lot to me. You could shorten that by say it took 2 deep breaths, or, you know, 2 long breaths to calm my pulse. And I wrote, "After finishing the first chapter, I'm really unsure if I want to continue. The voice the author has written the MC with is very flat and telling, which means I'm reading quickly, but the imagery is not what I would want it to be. Not exactly something I want to be reading. It also seems to talk itself in circles, sometimes with over-explaining or repeating ideas." Overall, I gave the first chapter a 4 out of 10 of how much I liked it and how much I thought I would be willing to read on, which I did not want to read on. There were some really pretty moments in there, like a couple of really pretty lines, but overall I just wasn't losing myself in the book. I wasn't feeling very immersed. Just did not feel like the book was for me. And being several days removed from it, several weeks removed from writing this script, which was several days removed from reading it, I'd forgotten that I had picked it up and read it, and kind of was thankful for my notes that I wrote at first. But I was like, oh yeah, I have not thought about this once since I finished reading it. I have not had the itch of going back to, ooh, like what happens after that. It's not for me. Again, emphasizing that does not mean this is a bad book. It is well done for a book for an age and target demographic that just is not me. And I think sometimes people can't correlate the two, that just because you didn't like something doesn't mean that it was bad, and vice versa, just because you liked something doesn't mean it was good. The next book I picked up was Winter Song by S.J. Jones. It was published by Thomas Dune Books, also in 2017, which I think is interesting because this is another YA fantasy romance, and Ever the Hunted was also a YA fantasy romance, but they feel vastly different from each other. Winter Song has a 3.54 on Goodreads. I did not write down how many ratings each book had. That might have been something that could have been worth noting, and I will probably do that in future videos. I really liked Winter Song. Winter Song follows Leslie, Cathy, and the Earl Koenig, or the Elf King, so it's playing into some of that, I think the story of the Earl King is German. The origins of the Elf King, or the Earl Koenig, that I am familiar with is the poem by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe? Goethe? I do not remember how to say his last name. It's been many a year since my college courses in which I went over his work. And then the, I don't think it's called an aria, or a Lied, by Schubert, which I absolutely loved. Did a lot of stuff in college with that as well, both the poem and then the musical piece. The fun joys of being an English major with a music minor is there was a lot of crossover between everything. So I'm familiar with that kind of subject matter, and it kind of seems like this book is playing into that some, and I love the poem, I love the Iliad, and so I don't think it comes as a surprise that I was really enjoying the first chapter of this book and wanted to continue reading it, but the challenge is just to read the first chapter and then talk about it, so I didn't want to keep reading because I felt like that would be unfair. Her writing is very, very nice. I like her prose, I like her voice. It doesn't feel as expository or like it's trying to drill something into my head as the first book. There were some weird notes in it. I wasn't thrilled about how the whole engagement with Cassie seemed to be playing out. It felt very weird to me and kind of forced, and it doesn't necessarily make sense to me why Cassie she's like mad at her mom and her sister for getting engaged to this guy because she never wanted to be engaged to him, and she was, you know, saying things like, I told you guys I didn't want to get engaged to him, and then our main character, Leslie, is like, what are you talking about? When did you say that? And Kathy like brings up very like shallow, superficial points in which she says that that's when she was explaining that she didn't want to marry this guy, but it seems to me that like that was only understood by her. So she is a kind of character that I do not enjoy, but that doesn't mean she isn't written well. I think she's written very well, and I think that she's gonna drive me insane. Good tension building characters like Kathy. They grind my gears, they rub me wrong, but that's good for building tension. I think overall I would definitely rate the first chapter of Winter Song an 8 out of 10. Again, my only gripes are Kathy. That was realistically my only point. There did seem to be a little bit of the thing I don't like that I always call believing in algebra but not believing in calculus, where characters experience low forms of magic and they can believe in that because they've experienced it, but any higher forms of magic or like religion or whatever it is in the book, they can't fathom believing in, so it can't be true. Thus being able to understand algebra but not being able to understand calculus. Which, same. I did not do well in calculus. The last book I pulled for this video was A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. It was by Minotaur Books, published in 2022. It is an adult thriller mystery. It has a 3.97 rating on Goodreads. It seems to have won a couple of awards. I feel like I remember it being nominated for a Book of the Month award. I'm very confident it was either the winner or at least just the nominee for the Goodreads Choice Award in 2022 when it came out. The main character of this is Chloe Davis, and she's really the only character that you meet in the prologue. In the first chapter, you get mentions of her father, and yeah, the prologue and first chapter were incredibly short, and it was decently interesting, but honestly, it was not gripping whatsoever. I have this thing with thrillers where they either capture me right at the beginning and are super interesting, even if it's not like the most insane hook ever. It's just like the prose or the characters or the voicing, just whatever it is, it either really grips me and makes me want to continue reading, or it just does nothing to me and I do not care whatsoever, and sadly this book fell into the latter category. By the time I got to the end of the first chapter, again I read the prologue and the first chapter, I was not enthralled. I was shocked at how abruptly it ended, and I was kind of happy about that because I didn't want to keep reading it. I do feel bad. I do think that it's probably an incredibly interesting thriller. Again, it's highly praised, but I didn't really care. I have this thing sometimes with thrillers where, with how things open and how things are exposed, that I make my guess at the beginning of the book, obviously, as to what's happening. Hey, Zelda. And whoa, my ear just popped there for a second. That felt horrible. I sometimes feel like thrillers drop hints really early on in their books about how things are going to end. And it's either a red herring or it's true, but I felt like this book kind of like gave itself away in the first chapter, and I was like, Zelda was giving Calcifer a bath and then he started rabbit kicking her. To be fair, almost every time Zelda starts giving Calcifer a bath, it ends with her biting him, so I don't blame him for preemptively attacking first. If I decide in the future that I am intrigued by A Flicker in the Dark, I will probably just try and pick it up from my library. My sister might have a copy of it. I maybe bought her that copy for Christmas. If she has it and I feel like reading it later down the road, I will just borrow it from her or the library. But I think that A Flicker in the Dark and Ever the Hunted are gonna go up on my Pango. I don't care to hold on to them. If you've ever wanted to read those books, you're in luck, because I get rid of books for cheap. Winter Song I am going to be keeping. I am hopefully going to be able to finish reading it either later this summer or maybe this fall or maybe this winter. Maybe I'll make it a winter read. Winter Song in the winter. I don't know when I'm going to get to all of the books that I'm going to inevitably keep from my TBR speed run, but that is 3 books down, only 49 more to go, unless I keep buying more books. Thank you so very much for watching. Let me know if you have read those books and what you thought of them. Do you think I was correct in DNFing the 2 that I am DNFing? Do you think I am incorrect in continuing the one I'm planning on continuing? How many books are on your TBR? How are you managing to get through your TBR? Let me know in a comment down below. I will hopefully be filming the next segment of this series soon. I really do like just the idea of just speed running straight through my TBR. Just reading the, prologue first chapter and deciding based on that what I want to keep, because I feel like I have too many books and I want to just have a curated collection of physical books moving forward. I don't just want to buy any book that I think looks good or fun. I, want to use my library as much as possible. I want to borrow books from people as much as possible. It's hard because I really want to support authors, but I also don't have all the money in the world or all the shelf space in the world. I have a very tiny house. I don't have all the bookshelf space in the world for all of the special editions of Howl's Moving Castle that I want to buy. If you want to keep the conversation going, you can go ahead and answer the questions I asked earlier in the comments down below, or you can join my Discord server, which is in my description bar. If you're looking for another book to add to your physical TBR or even your digital TBR, you can check out my book Down with the Prince. It's available on all platforms, but being totally transparent, I make the most amount of royalties if you buy directly through the Nightshade Publishing website. Again, thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!